They say marriage is a partnership. They say love conquers all. They say for better or worse, till death do you part. But sometimes, the person sleeping next to you is planning your destruction while you're planning your future together. And sometimes the spouse who discovers betrayal doesn't just file for divorce. They orchestrate the most methodical, financially devastating revenge that transforms a cheating partner from comfortable to destitute in a single legal maneuver. Tonight's tale comes from the darkest corners of Reddit, where cheating spouse revenge stories reveal that sometimes the quietest person in the marriage is actually the most dangerous. This is the story of Dr. Nathan Cross, the cardiac surgeon who spent 2 years meticulously planning his cheating wife's complete financial and social annihilation, all while she thought she was getting away with her affair. This isn't just about infidelity. This is about what happens when a brilliant medical professional applies surgical precision to destroying a marriage, when a prenuptial agreement becomes a weapon of mass financial destruction, and when patience transforms heartbreak into the perfect revenge. Dr. Nathan Cross was a cardiac surgeon at one of Boston's most prestigious hospitals. At 42, he was at the peak of his career, earning $850,000 annually, with a reputation as one of the best in his field. His wife, Victoria Cross, was a former pharmaceutical sales representative who had retired after their marriage 12 years earlier to focus on wellness and self-care. They lived in a $2.8 million home in an exclusive Boston suburb. They had 2 children, Emma, age 10, and Lucas, age 8. From the outside, they were the perfect successful family. The brilliant surgeon, the beautiful wife, the accomplished children in private schools. But perfection, as Nathan was about to discover, was just an expensive illusion. Nathan's suspicions began during a routine evening at home. Victoria had been on her phone constantly for months, always angled away from him, always quick to close apps when he entered the room. She'd started going to the gym 5 times a week, a dramatic change from her previous sedentary lifestyle. She'd purchased new lingerie that Nathan never saw her wear. She had evening book club meetings that seemed to run later and later. The red flags were everywhere, but Nathan had been too focused on his surgical practice to notice until the night he came home early from the hospital after a canceled surgery. Victoria wasn't home, despite telling him she'd be there all evening. Her location sharing was turned off. When she finally arrived home at 11 p.m., she claimed she'd been at dinner with girlfriends. Nathan said nothing. But that night, while Victoria slept, Nathan made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He wasn't going to confront her. He wasn't going to demand explanations. He was going to do what he did best: diagnose the problem, plan the treatment, and execute the procedure with surgical precision. Nathan hired a private investigator named Marcus Stone, a former FBI agent who specialized in matrimonial investigations. Marcus was expensive, $15,000 retainer plus expenses, but Nathan wasn't concerned about cost. He was concerned about evidence. Within 3 weeks, Marcus provided Nathan with comprehensive documentation of Victoria's affair. Her lover was Derek Hartman, a 35-year-old personal trainer at Victoria's gym. They'd been seeing each other for 18 months. More than half the time Victoria had been focused on wellness. The affair wasn't just physical. Victoria and Derek were planning a future together. Marcus had recorded conversations where Victoria discussed divorcing Nathan and taking half of everything in the settlement. Derek talked about how they'd use Nathan's money to open a luxury fitness center. Victoria laughed about how Nathan was too focused on work to notice that she'd been cheating on him for over a year. But Marcus uncovered something else, something that would become the foundation of Nathan's revenge. Victoria had been systematically stealing from their joint accounts. Over the past 18 months, she'd withdrawn over $180,000 in cash from their accounts, supposedly for household expenses and personal shopping. In reality, the money was funding her affair: luxury hotels, expensive dinners, gifts for Derek, and a secret apartment she'd rented as their love nest. Nathan sat in his home office, reviewing Marcus's evidence, and realized that his wife hadn't just betrayed him emotionally. She'd been systematically stealing from him to finance her affair while planning to take half his assets in a divorce. Most husbands would have immediately confronted their wives, filed for divorce, and fought in court. But Nathan was a cardiac surgeon who specialized in the most delicate, complex procedures. Nathan knew that the key to success wasn't aggression. It was preparation, timing, and flawless execution. Nathan had 3 major advantages that Victoria didn't know about. First, the prenuptial agreement. Victoria had signed it 12 years ago, barely reading it, because she'd been so eager to marry the wealthy young surgeon. The prenup was ironclad, drafted by one of Boston's top family law attorneys. It specified that in the event of infidelity proven with evidence, the unfaithful spouse would receive no alimony, no property settlement, and would be responsible for their own legal fees. Second, the financial structure. Nathan had been careful throughout their marriage to keep his major assets separate. His investment portfolio, his medical practice equity, his inheritance from his parents, all were in his name alone or in protected trusts. The house was in his name only. Victoria's name was on their joint checking account and nothing else. Third, the children. Nathan was the primary parent despite his demanding career. He attended every school event, helped with homework, coached Lucas's soccer team. Victoria's involvement with the children had decreased dramatically since starting her affair, something Nathan had been carefully documenting. But Nathan's revenge required more than just legal advantages. It required perfect timing, psychological manipulation, and the kind of patience that only comes from someone who spends hours in surgery, waiting for exactly the right moment to make the critical move. Nathan's plan would unfold over 2 years in 3 distinct phases. Phase 1, the preparation, making Victoria believe she was winning. Phase 2, the setup, positioning Victoria for complete financial exposure. Phase 3, the execution, destroying Victoria's life in a single devastating move. Phase 1 began with Nathan playing the role of oblivious husband perfectly. He worked longer hours at the hospital, giving Victoria more freedom to see Derek. He agreed to all of Victoria's spending requests, allowing her to continue withdrawing money. He even suggested Victoria take a girls' trip to Miami with her friends, a trip that Marcus confirmed she spent entirely with Derek. But behind the scenes, Nathan was meticulously documenting everything. Every dollar Victoria spent on Derek, every lie she told about her whereabouts, every text message between Victoria and Derek, which Marcus had access to through sophisticated electronic surveillance. Every hotel visit, every expensive dinner charged to their joint credit card. Nathan was building an unassailable legal case, but he was also doing something more strategic. He was allowing Victoria to become comfortable with her deception, to believe she was successfully fooling him, to plan her future with Derek with increasing boldness. 6 months into his investigation, Nathan made a brilliant move. He suggested to Victoria that they should start thinking about retirement planning, and that she should consult with a financial advisor about her future security. Nathan even paid for Victoria to meet with a financial planner. Victoria, believing Nathan suspected nothing, met with the advisor and laid out her dreams. Divorcing Nathan within the next year, demanding half of all assets, maintaining her current lifestyle on alimony, eventually marrying Derek and opening their fitness center. What Victoria didn't know was that the financial advisor was actually a forensic accountant Nathan had hired specifically to get Victoria to voluntarily disclose her plans and expectations on record. Every word of their consultation was documented and would later be used as evidence of Victoria's premeditated fraud. Phase 2 began 1 year into Nathan's investigation. By this point, Victoria had stolen over $280,000 from their accounts to fund her affair. She'd grown so comfortable that she'd started bringing Derek to their home when Nathan was at work, something the hidden security cameras Nathan had installed captured in detail. Nathan made his next strategic move. He told Victoria he'd received a substantial bonus from the hospital and wanted to make a significant investment in their future. He proposed transferring $500,000 from his personal accounts to their joint account so Victoria could help manage our growing wealth. Victoria was thrilled. To her, this was confirmation that Nathan was clueless about her affair and was actually giving her access to more money. She immediately began planning how she'd hide even more cash before filing for divorce. But Nathan's real plan was more devious. The money he transferred came with electronic tracking that would document every dollar Victoria withdrew. More importantly, by giving Victoria access to a large sum and watching how she used it, Nathan was building evidence of financial fraud that would destroy her in divorce court. Over 6 months, Victoria withdrew $380,000 of the $500,000 Nathan had deposited. She claimed it was for investment opportunities and home renovations. But Nathan's surveillance revealed the truth. Derek had expensive tastes. Victoria had bought him a BMW, paid for luxury vacations, funded renovations to their secret apartment, and was building a cash reserve for their planned future together. Every withdrawal was documented. Every lie was recorded. Every dollar was traced. Phase 3 began in month 22 of Nathan's investigation. Victoria had grown so confident in her deception that she'd started pressuring Nathan for a divorce, claiming she felt unfulfilled in their marriage and wanted to find herself. She'd consulted with a divorce attorney, a consultation Nathan knew about because the attorney was ethically required to check for conflicts of interest and had inadvertently revealed the meeting. Victoria believed she had everything planned. She'd file for divorce, claim emotional distress from Nathan's neglect due to his work schedule, demand half of all assets including his medical practice equity, and walk away with millions while starting a new life with Derek. Nathan let her believe this right up until the morning he executed his final move. On a Tuesday morning in October, Nathan woke up early, kissed his sleeping children, and went to his home office. He had taken the day off work, something he rarely did, for what he called personal matters. At 8 a.m., Nathan's attorney filed for divorce on his behalf. But this wasn't an ordinary divorce filing. This was a comprehensive legal assault that Nathan had spent 2 years preparing. The divorce petition included 847 pages of documented evidence of Victoria's 18-month affair, financial records showing $280,000 stolen from joint accounts, additional documentation of $380,000 fraudulently withdrawn from the account Nathan had funded electronic surveillance footage of Derek in their marital home, text messages between Victoria and Derek planning to defraud Nathan in divorce. The prenuptial agreement with the infidelity clause clearly highlighted a motion for full custody of both children based on Victoria's neglect and affair, a motion to freeze all joint accounts and credit cards immediately, a motion to evict Victoria from the marital home within 48 hours, a civil lawsuit against Victoria for theft of marital assets totaling $660,000 at 8:30 a.m. Victoria was served with divorce papers at their home by a process server, along with notification that their joint bank accounts were frozen, all credit cards were canceled, and she had 48 hours to vacate the premises. At 9:00 a.m., Nathan's attorney filed a motion with the court requesting an emergency hearing due to Victoria's ongoing affair in the marital home and risk of further asset dissipation. At 9:30 a.m., Derek was served with legal papers at his gym, informing him that he was being sued for alienation of affection and criminal conversation, obscure but still valid laws in Massachusetts that allow a spouse to sue their partner's lover. The lawsuit demanded $1 million in damages. At 10:00 a.m., Victoria's parents received a detailed letter from Nathan's attorney explaining their daughter's affair, theft and fraud, along with copies of some of the evidence. Nathan wanted Victoria's family to understand exactly who their daughter had become. By noon, Victoria was sitting in her lawyer's office, crying hysterically while her attorney reviewed the evidence against her. The attorney's assessment was devastating. Victoria had no defense, the prenup was airtight, and she was likely to end the divorce with nothing while owing hundreds of thousands in restitution. But Nathan wasn't finished. That afternoon, Nathan filed a complaint with the IRS regarding Victoria's unreported withdrawals and cash hoarding, suggesting possible tax evasion. He filed a report with local police regarding the theft from joint accounts. He notified the landlord of Victoria and Derek's secret apartment that the rent had been paid with fraudulently obtained funds. Within 24 hours of Nathan's filing, Victoria's comfortable life had completely collapsed. She had no access to money, accounts frozen. She had no credit cards. She had no home, eviction notice. She was facing criminal theft charges. She was facing IRS investigation. Her family knew everything and had disowned her, her attorney told her she had no viable defense. Derek was being sued for $1 million and had dumped her immediately to protect himself. The emergency hearing was held 3 days later. Nathan attended with his attorney and a banker's box full of evidence. Victoria attended with her attorney in tears. The judge reviewed Nathan's evidence for 30 minutes. Then he looked at Victoria and said something she'd never forget. "Mrs. Cross, in my 25 years on the family law bench, I have never seen such a comprehensive case of matrimonial fraud. You are fortunate that criminal charges are still pending, because based on this evidence, you deserve imprisonment." The judge's ruling was decisive. Divorce granted to Nathan immediately. No alimony for Victoria due to proven infidelity. Prenup enforced. No property settlement for Victoria. Full custody of both children to Nathan. Victoria ordered to pay $660,000 in restitution for stolen funds. Victoria responsible for all legal fees, both hers and Nathan's. Victoria given 24 hours to vacate marital home. Restraining order preventing Victoria from contacting children, except supervised visits. The divorce that Victoria thought would make her rich instead left her completely destitute. But Nathan's revenge extended beyond just the legal victory. You see, Nathan was highly respected in Boston's medical community. He was on the boards of several charitable organizations. He knew everyone who mattered in their social circle. And Nathan made absolutely certain that everyone knew exactly what Victoria had done. Nathan's attorney sent courtesy notifications to every member of their country club, explaining that Victoria's membership was being terminated due to criminal conduct, discovered during divorce proceedings. The letter didn't need to specify details. Everyone immediately started investigating and gossiping. Nathan sent similar notifications to Victoria's friends, her former colleagues, and anyone who had socialized with them as a couple. Each letter was clinical, factual, and devastating. Victoria has been found to have engaged in an extramarital affair spanning 18 months while stealing $660,000 from our marriage to fund her activities. All claims in this letter are supported by court documents available as public record. Within a week, Victoria was socially destroyed. Friends blocked her number. Her former colleagues wanted nothing to do with her. The country club banned her from the premises. Parents at the children's private school whispered when she arrived for her supervised visits. Derek, the personal trainer who had been so confident about their future together, had immediately ended their relationship when served with the $1 million lawsuit. He couldn't afford legal defense and certainly couldn't pay damages. He fired his own attorney and sent a groveling letter to Nathan's lawyer, offering to testify against Victoria in exchange for dismissal of the lawsuit. Nathan accepted Derek's offer. Derek provided sworn testimony about Victoria's plans to defraud Nathan, her theft of marital funds, and her general character. Then Nathan dropped the lawsuit anyway. Derek had nothing worth taking, and his testimony was more valuable than any judgment. The financial devastation was complete. Victoria had to move into a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood, the only place she could afford with no money, no job, and no prospects. She had to file for bankruptcy because she couldn't pay the $660,000 restitution. Her bankruptcy filing became public record, further destroying her reputation. Victoria tried to get a job, but her name returned thousands of Google results about her theft and affair. No one would hire her. She ended up working retail for minimum wage, trying to rebuild a life that Nathan had systematically destroyed. The children, Emma and Lucas, thrived under Nathan's primary custody. They saw Victoria twice a month for supervised visits, during which Victoria was not allowed to discuss the divorce or disparage Nathan. The children were in therapy to process their mother's betrayal, but with Nathan's stable, loving presence, they were healing. Nathan emerged from the divorce stronger than ever. His reputation in the medical community was enhanced. Colleagues respected how he'd handled a difficult personal situation with intelligence and restraint. He'd lost nothing financially and had gained full custody of his children. 18 months after the divorce, Nathan met Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a pediatric surgeon at his hospital. She was brilliant, kind, and had no patience for dishonesty. They began dating carefully, with Nathan being completely transparent about his divorce and children. 2 years after his divorce was finalized, Nathan married Jennifer in a small private ceremony attended by close friends and family. Emma and Lucas loved Jennifer, who treated them with genuine affection and respect. Nathan had found real partnership, real love, and real trust. Victoria attended none of the children's school events, sports games, or important milestones. The supervised visitation supervisor reported that Victoria spent most visits crying about how unfair her life had become, rather than engaging with Emma and Lucas. When the children turned 13 and 11, they asked the court to reduce visitation with their mother to once monthly. The judge granted their request. Today, 5 years after the divorce, Nathan lives in an even larger home with Jennifer and their 3 children together: Emma, Lucas, and a new baby daughter. His surgical career has continued to flourish. He's published research papers, trained residents, and been nominated for several prestigious medical awards. Victoria lives alone in her studio apartment, working retail and trying to pay off her bankruptcy debts. She's now 49, single, and has no relationship with her children, who have asked to call Jennifer Mom. Derek, the personal trainer who was going to build a luxury fitness empire with Victoria's stolen money, works at a different gym and avoids all conversation about his past. Every year on the anniversary of filing for divorce, Nathan takes Jennifer and the children out for dinner at Boston's finest restaurant. He raises a glass and says, "To truth, to justice, and to never settling for less than you deserve." The children, who know the broad strokes of what their mother did but not the devastating details, understand that sometimes parents make terrible choices. They love their father for protecting them and respect Jennifer for choosing their family. Nathan keeps one item from his 2-year investigation: the prenuptial agreement that Victoria signed without reading carefully. It's framed in his home office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that preparation, patience, and precision can turn catastrophic betrayal into ultimate victory. Victoria occasionally sends letters to Nathan, begging for reduced restitution payments or asking for help with her debts. Nathan's attorney has a template response: all communications must go through legal counsel. No modifications to court-ordered obligations will be considered. The private investigator, Marcus Stone, later told Nathan that in his 30 years of matrimonial investigation, he'd never seen a case executed with such perfect precision. "You didn't just win the divorce," Marcus said. "You performed surgery on your marriage, removing the cancer with such skill that it never had a chance to spread." Nathan's colleagues sometimes ask him how he remained so calm during the divorce, how he managed to work such long hours while dealing with personal trauma, how he kept his emotions from affecting his surgical performance. Nathan's answer is always the same: "I'm a cardiac surgeon. I deal with life and death situations that require absolute focus and perfect execution. When I discovered my wife's betrayal, I treated it like a complex surgical case. I diagnosed the problem, planned the procedure, and executed it with precision. Emotion has no place in the operating room, and it had no place in my divorce strategy." The cheating spouse revenge stories that circulate on Reddit rarely end with such complete and total victory. Most betrayed spouses react emotionally, confronting their partners immediately, making decisions in anger that cost them dearly in divorce court. Nathan did the opposite. He transformed his heartbreak into surgical focus. He spent 2 years preparing the perfect case, allowing Victoria to become comfortable in her deception, documenting every crime, and building evidence that no judge could ignore. Victoria thought she was married to a man too focused on his career to notice her affair. What she was actually married to was a cardiac surgeon who could focus on a single objective for years until the perfect moment to execute. The prenuptial agreement Victoria signed without reading became the weapon that destroyed her. The money Nathan gave her access to became the rope she used to hang herself. The confidence Victoria felt in her deception became the blindness that prevented her from seeing her destruction approaching. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but sometimes revenge is a dish that takes 2 years to prepare, involves 47 pages of evidence, and results in a prenuptial agreement being executed with such surgical precision that the cheating spouse loses everything while the betrayed spouse emerges stronger than ever. Victoria thought she was divorcing her husband to take half of his wealth and start a new life. Instead, she ended up bankrupt, socially destroyed, estranged from her children, and working minimum wage while Nathan built a beautiful life with a woman who actually deserved him. The prenup assassin didn't just win his divorce. He performed the most precise, calculated, and devastating surgical strike in matrimonial history. And somewhere in a studio apartment in a bad Boston neighborhood, Victoria Cross has the rest of her life to think about the cardiac surgeon she thought was too busy to notice she was destroying their marriage. Nathan noticed everything. He just had the discipline to wait 2 years for the perfect moment to strike. And when he struck, Victoria's comfortable life flatlined permanently.